Hello everyone, I'm Forrest McFreelava, and this is Let's Play Papal Italy number 10. We left off with our aims pretty clear, and unfortunately completely at risk due to this massive British intervention, which is flowing out onto mainland Europe in just a terrible and profoundly dangerous way. So first things first, we're going to retreat these two armies. We lost a solid 26,000 men, nowhere near as many as the enemy did, which is good news. We'll see if we can't retreat these two units and make this British army stop. And unfortunately we're under attack, which is exactly what I was hoping we would avoid. So, alright, we're going to just take care of everything that we can as quickly as we're able to. So this army, really we'll just move our armies against the Ottomans in as quick and messy as a way, okay, we're just going to get our armies as far as we can through the Ottomans. Hopefully we will be able to take over all of their provinces, and it looks as though we will be able to, so we don't have to worry about the Ottomans anymore. We'll take this last army. Well, I guess we can't. It's doing something important. Alright, these two armies will begin to funnel back over to the Western Front. This army is ready to go. Africa is holding itself together fairly well. We will unsiege a couple of our provinces. South Africa, we are taking over almost the last territories. Alright, that's all good news. Now back to the place that's a disaster. Alright, first things first is we're going to start pulling as many troops as we can from this terribly indefensible position. We're doing really good damage against the British when they attack us, so that's very great news. We are continuing to win these, not win these sieges, complete these occupations, different game, entirely. That's really just every other Paradox game. At any rate, moving on. With this army more or less in position, we're going to start pulling our troops from the French front. Unfortunately, the British are present basically everywhere, so we'll just try to draw up new lines. We may as well just create a new battle plan for this. We'll just name it War Plan. And I'm not sure... Alright, I want to keep this plan, as it is important. Alright, whatever. At any rate, let's go ahead and show what we're going to try to do. For the most... Let's get a much thicker line. That's just ridiculous. Alright, so, initial phase. We're going to defend this general area. There's really nothing much more to it than that. We're going to hold that area as long as we can. We may funnel these two armies up to this position and hold that as best we can. This army will probably just fall back over and attempt to hold out really whatever it's able to. We'll see what that ends up being. The armies in the Ottoman areas will just start funneling over. That's a terrible arrow. Well, at any rate, they will just kind of funnel over and we'll hope for the best. Let's delete that arrow because that too is a disaster and we don't really need it. So we'll just try to hold on for now. Ultimately, this battle against these British troops is probably going to pull a large number of our forces in, so to be completely realistic about what we can expect next, we'll go ahead and just go to yellow from green. We can expect our forces to just sort of pool up in this area and hopefully keep a small causeway up here. That's where I see the battle proceeding to. After that, I can kind of expect that it'll really intensify right there, which we will indicate with red. It will really intensify right there, and we'll probably even have to pull these troops away. Now, oh cool, we can toggle individual plans. Alright, so that's really what I expect will occur. Let's see what actually does happen. And we'll just turn all the maps off right now, because it doesn't really add anything, and it just clutters the field. Now that is presuming that the British reinforce their troops there, and unfortunately we did end up inadvertently attacking them, so we'll bring our troops... Ooh, wow, that is a terrible disaster all of a sudden. Well, that accidental just interdiction of our troops by the British is probably going to turn into a major battle all of its own. These forces we are also going to start taking back, as we are really going to need men for this. Now, right here, this battle is going to be a terrible disaster for us, so let's actually just start pulling these men away. We will lose far too many men. It is not worth it. However, if we do pull back from that area, we cut off our entire remaining force, and they will be trapped up here in these French territories. We could just pull back into the French territories, although that puts us at risk of losing our entire army. However, we either pull back and risk losing them, or we stay in that fight and actually do it. Now, at least they're taking equal casualties to us right now, however, they do have more men, so that is not sustainable in the slightest. We are luckily finishing all of these occupations, which, while great, incredibly frustrating how they clutter the screen, especially in the middle of a major battle, such as the one we just had. These forces we're going to pull away as well. Let's see. We'll just send... You know what, in fact, we'll just send these two armies forward. We'll take this group, split it up initially so it doesn't take any more attrition than it already needs to. And we'll also stop this group and send them down this way. So these three groups will give a shift order to meet back up at the front. Hopefully that will split them up enough that they won't all get attrition and die on the way. Looks like that's just a bunch of nothing. We'll take over that last South African province, move this army, I guess, just vaguely towards Orange, as we are fabricating a claim against them. And yeah, that should be all of that. Let's go back to the front and see what's happening. Taking note to keep them out of the center so we don't cover that. This army can also keep moving. Oops. The one terrible thing about fighting on all of these fronts is that when something really interesting does end up happening, you kind of can't focus on it because of all of the other things. So okay, we're going to start retreating all of our terribly undermanned groups, which comes out to be about half of this army. So they'll all retreat. The two remaining groups that are still fully manned, or nearly so, are going to take the entirely bold and risky move of retreating deeper into enemy lines. Now, I was hoping to keep up a causeway. That was supposed to be the major point of having all of those troops there. That failed immediately. And our election's done, so let's hold another election. Next step is going to be, first of all, we don't really know where these British troops are going. Ideally, we can get them to stop. I really worry that we'll end up accidentally, inadvertently retreating our forces into them, which would be a terrible disaster. We could still mobilize and get 260 additional brigades, however they would be slightly less combat effective than the troops that we have already, as they will just be infantry groups unsupported. So if we do mobilize, we'll have a lot of support groups that we will have to deal with and protect. However, they will give us the sheer numbers that we may need to win battles. However, defense is proving to still be king, just by how we are devastating the British when they are the attackers in these fights. Now, unfortunately, that isn't good news for all the territories that we have lost, as they're likely to stay lost. And unfortunately, they reinforced those 2,000 men. We just need to keep a causeway up to these armies until we can retreat them out and away. However, look at the amazingly one-sided casualty rosters on these battles, and you'll see exactly really what we're aiming to do throughout this war. These groups will also give shift orders to, just bringing them over there. And alright, we are able to win fairly consistently when they are the attackers. Let's go ahead and double check that this army's doing fairly okay. We'll go ahead and just reinforce them massively. I wonder what is different here. Not really sure. I guess we're just lucky. At any rate, we've nearly completed all of the occupations in Africa, which means we won't have to worry about those theaters any longer. We are doing well, oddly enough, in that offensive battle, and we stack wiped over 100,000 British just then. So let's go ahead and move these forces further back. Now we're really lucky at we are lucky because of how quickly we were able to win that terrible battle. These forces, let's see, what should we do with all of them? The war is already taking a drastic turn away from what I expected, so the old plan is kind of dead already. Alright, so these forces will keep where they're at. We'll move these men south and around. We can probably seize Paris away from these French soldiers. And we'll bring the remaining troops down to reinforce. Basra is ours now. And what is this army doing? We'll take both of these armies and send them back up and around. South Africa is fully ours. We're just going to stay next to Orange. As in 85 days, we'll declare on them and hopefully just annex them. Alright, so these armies are going around. If we win the Battle of Paris, we can entirely circle this British army, and that will really get rid of the threat that they pose and bring us back into a point where we just control the flow of the war and we have the momentum. So while that was a setback, oh no, in fact, that's also a very bad thing that just occurred. One of our armies did end up retreating into the British. Exactly the thing I was hoping to avoid. Nevertheless, it did occur. That happens from time to time. This army will also have cycle around. Is this army doing anything? Okay, they all are. And we'll just give them shift orders. Well, no, we shouldn't. I'll just give the other one a shift order leading up to the first one's destination. This army will have reinforced. The 4 stack is obviously not going to reinforce, and sadly it is very wounded, or very undermanned. We're winning there, though. That's good news. These forces can hopefully hold out where they're at. In fact, no, we won't do that. We will rush over and try to destroy that British 7 stack before it can get reinforced. We did defeat the British there. Let's just bring this army against those 10,000 Brits. We have won the Battle of Paris, which is fantastic news. We will just rush this remaining 3,000 British. Africa is almost entirely ours. We will just move troops to the last few cities. We'll actually just move that group away. If we can just retreat this 11 stack, it will hopefully be able to reform. And with that all said and done, we have encircled the remaining British troops, provided they don't have access through Belgium, which is really a bit of a hopeful thing on our part. They probably do have access. And with that, all of the occupations in Africa won't actually be done. It looks like there's one more, but once that's all taken care of, those 4 provinces are ours. We will have all of our enemies' European holding or African holdings under control. Not yet European, but that will come. Now, while we have essentially trapped these British armies, and in fact, let's go ahead and take this opportunity to trap them on the continent entirely by just bringing our fleet around. Alright, that is all good news. This British 74 stack appears to be just roving our countryside. That is intimidating. Can we get them to stop? We did. Okay, that's good news. We will encircle them, hopefully prompting them to attack our forces. We'll just move these armies out of the way. Alright, so we will split this group. Now, armies in this game love to siege, and they generally don't stop sieging unless they absolutely must. So we'll just encircle that army. Once it wins the siege, or I keep saying siege, once it completes the occupation. Oh no, are these British retreating? We were not quick enough with our navy, and a majority of the British troops have retreated back to their homeland. We might be able to encircle and cut off the very last stragglers, though, which would be a great great little great little coup that we could manage to pull off if we're able. Now this British army is meeting our troops. We'll send another expedition to the North Pole. Sadly, they're doing well against our army. I'm not too concerned though, because they're really just on the causeway of all of our troops reinforcing. The big worry is going to be just that we'll probably take a lot of attrition. We almost just suicided that army. Alright, so we are winning these battles. We can hopefully just completely cut off the remaining British. Dunkirk will be a bit exposed, however, we now have control over their exit route. In fact, if we had additional armies, we could probably do a bit more and fully encircle them. However, that French stack's going to be free in a moment, so we won't really risk it. Now we have to deal with all these armies being bunched up. We'll send them just more or less in their own directions. Not really, though. They all still have to go to the same place in the end. We'll just split them up into 4 different places. The French won that battle, which is probably going to be an issue for us. And we can pass another reform. Or well, let's just call it a reform, why not? We'll give people better pensions, making them very, very docile. 2.38 militancy is fantastic and relatively rare. Now this French army did attack us. It looks as though the British armies are going to wheel around and attack as well. Overall, a pretty good turn of events, as we'll be able to just destroy them in battle. Like we just destroyed that one group. So we'll keep that back in reserve. I don't know what this British stack is doing, doesn't really matter though. The important thing is, every time we get them to attack us, we win a little bit. And now we just have overall superiority in numbers, so it doesn't even matter all that much. And you see how these amazing battles are going. Or how amazingly these battles are going. What is with it? What is with words and me today? Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter. At any rate, we are doing fantastic. These battles are very one-sided, which is just great news as far as battles go. So we'll go ahead and just wheel these forces around, put that army there, run this army around and then back, and we will, by doing so, trap this remaining British army. All of their other forces are probably going to be destroyed fairly easily in a rather straightforward process. Now, I had mentioned previously in a different episode, but every time an army retreats and reinforces, and is forced to reinforce, it gets rid of all of the dig-in bonuses of the army that it reinforces. So you'll notice they don't get any bonuses for being dug in. Unfortunately, the tone of this election seems to be just trying to get rid of all of the rights of all of the minorities whose countries we're attacking right now. Yeah, so rude, guys. You're supposed to be trying to take more territory, not take rights away from the people within our country. At any rate, we can go ahead and declare war on Orange, whatever you want to call it. Probably just going to call it Orange. And who next? Diplomatically, we can go to war with Greece. Switzerland will fabricate against the Swiss. Why are we doing that? Well, they're there and our armies are nearby, is basically the entire thought. We'll go run these armies into that British 9-stack in the mountains. Admittedly, that statement alone says how bad of an idea it is. However, I feel like it might work out for us. Which is incredibly really does not reassure, I would imagine. And we are luckily being attacked yet again. We'll bring our army from Dunkirk over to just destroy these British forces, and unfortunately there are now a slew of revolts by all of the French, who want communism again, even though they tried it and didn't like it before. Alright, we'll just keep getting all of these industry techs. Let's take a look at our railways. They are coming along fairly nicely. We'll give it a break, though, just for a moment. Now, we could destroy this British 22 stack. It would probably cost us a lot of people, and it isn't really doing very much. We're already doing it. We're going for it. Now, this is probably too many regiments, seeing as they can't really do anything, and the combat width will be pretty low. We'll just go ahead and attack the British while we're at it, and really just attack everywhere with everything we can. Now, the combat width, you'll see, is ridiculously small, so it really doesn't help at all to bring all these troops there, but it also doesn't really hinder us in any way. Admittedly, if we were in a worse position, then it would definitely be a problem. We're not, though, so we'll just destroy that army with sheer force of numbers. Seems as though we did defeat them, and they're running off to Lyon. So we'll just bring 2 armies against that, and then just divide all the others. And Orange will be able to fully take over in just a moment. Now, we're not going to let the communists take over the French government, as communists are actually incredibly effective at bringing a country back on its feet. And, alright, that was just a... Alright, why not? I thought that was a larger army. Doesn't matter, though. I will accept that victory without question. That British army is destroyed. Alright, now, since communists are so good at bringing a country back on its feet, we're just going to smash that communist army taking Paris, because we don't want them to get back on their feet. That is a terrible thing for us. Now, they already are state capitalists, so it's not as though it's going to be that much of a turnaround by keeping their, letting the communists get into power. They already do have state capitalism, so they can just build up their factories. We're not going to make it easy for them, though. Communism is just too powerful to get a country on its feet. It's also... Oh, yes, Jingoism. Alright, cool. Click. So now we have Jingoism for days. We'll go ahead and add the war goal to acquire state and acquire Algiers. So just like that, if we have Algiers and we have that bit, we have all of French mainland Africa. That's not all we're going after, of course, but it is a nice place to start. Now we're also at war for Palestine against the Ottomans. We can also take Libya to kick them out of Africa, so we'll go ahead, acquire state Libya. Or should we do that? Our war against the Ottomans. Let's see. We can propose peace for 15 war score and they would accept. We should probably take a province that is worth as much war score as possible and then just fill out much smaller provinces later on. However, it doesn't look as though they really have anything that will cost that much. So instead we will actually go after Libya. We will just add that. Now the British are really going to be the problem. We could just start taking over their South African territories, or we could just keep eating all of these areas. We'll go ahead and go after Guinea. We're going after one of their provinces right now. Let's take a look. There we go, 12 war score, pretty straightforward. And let's see, who else are we at war with? Orange. We keep making it so much more complicated than it needs to be. At any rate, that's really nothing. We really don't have anything else we need to do. On the 29th of March, we can send out more diplomats for more demands. So we'll probably do that. Until then, though, let's go ahead and just destroy these British armies. Destroy all these rebel armies. And what was that? 60 some odd thousand British are attacking. Right. It's not terribly unexpected. I want to finish that occupation. we'll just bring this group up to reinforce, and that should take care of everything. We have defeated the French communists, more or less. We'll take these 90,000 men and just destroy that last British group. Orange will let us annex them, so we'll go ahead and just take that. And let's see. We don't need so many armies there. We will bring this poor undermanned group up and just begin getting more forces in place for the occupation of the British Isles proper, which is going swimmingly. And let's see. We used all of our Jingoism. Well, no matter. We will stay in the war with the French until we can make peace with the British, and that means we're going to just keep waiting for more Jingoism. And really, we want 100% war score deals out of all of these countries. It really does not serve our interest in the slightest to make peace until we can get that, as we've already destroyed the armies of all of the major countries in the world. So we may as well just take everything that those armies were defending, or at least to the greatest possible extent. We did destroy that British group. We can just bring our forces against the remainder. And we'll just keep sending troops over to the British Isles. We stack wiped that one army that had been defending London. And overall, yeah, we are now just once again back into that point of more or less just occupying everything and waiting for the war to end. So it's really nice when a war goes that well. It was admittedly rather worrying for a moment when the British just brought that massive army into the continent. And I'm just glad that we didn't lose any armies in that process, as that really, really could have happened. Pretty easily, too. Luckily, the defender just gets a massive advantage. We did lose quite a few people when we did end up attacking the British over here in Shaman, probably. So it could have been bad, or it could have been worse. And it was bad in a few instances. Overall, though, fairly straightforward and ultimately very successful war. It was a very nice war for us. Our armies continue to just rove about, and we'll hopefully get some Jingoism events, as that's really all that's holding us back. The British are really just losing their mainland right now. There's nothing they will be able to do about it. And then we'll be able to declare war on the Swiss pretty soon, and then we'll justify against the Greeks and take over their lands. Hopefully we'll still be at war with the Ottomans, so we can just roll in and take West Macedonia, as annoying of a province as that's going to be to hold on to without anything getting towards it, or without anything leading us to it or from it on land. So hopefully we'll also get enough territory from the Ottomans that we will border East Macedonia. Although it's rather up in the air if we'll actually achieve that, as that is quite a bit of war score to demand. And our armies, being as well made as they are just rapidly occupying all of England, to an extent that it's just almost absurd. However, with all of the British armies more or less just destroyed. Hey, and we get less war exhaustion, that's nice. But with the British army more or less destroyed, yeah, I guess it makes sense that they wouldn't really be able to bring any resistance forces to bear against us. So that was poor planning on the part of the British. However, since we do control the seas around them, it might have actually been their best bet to try to win the battle in France, so that it would be a battle in our territory and not theirs. Admittedly, it's French territory, not our territory. However, at this point, there's no real difference. We'll give everybody full citizenship. And the armies continue to rove. We lost the siege of Oran. What is going on in Oran? And where is Oran? Okay. Well, we can take care of that pretty quickly. And we have a massive group of mainly hussars and engineers, which isn't too surprising, just all things considered. But this does mean that we can complete all of these armies. Let's not get any cavalry. We don't need any cavalry. Or artillery. We don't need any artillery. We need cavalry. That's all we need. Cavalry and engineers. And we'll just split them up. And there we go. That takes care of basically every army except for just a couple. Alright, so yeah, that was worrying for a moment, but ultimately not really a problem, which is really the best way that could have gone. Moving back to just the general sense of the war, and our overall objectives, that war goal, or that war plan, is entirely out of date now, so let's not actually delete it. We'll delete this one. And open this one back up. So this is still the goal. We'll hopefully remove all of these other powers. And we should probably declare war on Egypt next, just because we'll probably have to fight multiple wars against them. So it was kind of dumb and wasteful for us to declare war on the Swiss first, since we can just win one single war against them and be done with it. Now you may notice that I am purposefully avoiding getting our troops onto our boats and just manually sending them the longer route. I just, for whatever reason, never trust troops to actually follow onto the boats and take care of all that in a way that is successful. It may just be paranoia on my part, but I don't know, I just don't trust it. AI boats are just a terrifying thing. So our forces move forward and around. And yeah, it's all pretty good, rather straightforward stuff. So let's see, what else is there I can talk about? So yeah, the British, we're definitely not going to be able to take all the territories we want in this war. I just imagine it'll cost far too much war score to kick them out of Africa. Once we do, though, we don't really have any reason to fight them ever again. Now, they'll probably attack us, as that's really the British way of doing things. And, you know, I can't really blame them. So we will probably be attacked, and we will have to defend ourselves, which we will do. And hopefully do quite well. So that does mean that we might end up fighting the French again, as the main thing that will contribute to our defeating the British is going to be having actual access to Britain. Now, we won't really realistically be able to expect that the French will give us military access, but we can probably just sort of take it. Now, you notice that our troops are automatically trying to go onto these boats. I don't trust that, as I've said, because look at that. It doesn't care. They don't care that two armies are trying to go and it only can support one. So we'll just manually send this group over. What a minor annoyance. What a minor inconvenience for such a helpful tool. It's terrible. Can't do it. Can't deal with it. We'll get the integral rail system, and we can still only spear Spain. We're not going to bother doing that, as it doesn't really help us at this moment, as we would just have to kick them back out when we declare that hopefully final war we need to fight against them. At any rate, we have our troops more or less surrounding Switzerland. These forces are all trying to get out. Now, I'm not sure. Okay, yes, there is an army there. And these armies had tried to go over the boats. If only there was a button or a setting you could set. that stopped armies from trying to transport over. What we're going to do is we're going to just park these boats so that the armies won't try to do that on their own. And now these remaining 12,000 men we'll just bring over into Italy, just various points, doesn't really matter where. Ideally just not where they'll get terrible attrition. And since they've already been ordered to move, they probably won't try anything crazy like getting back on boats for no reason. What's this army doing? We'll send it over the boats just because it doesn't matter if a single group tries. It only matters when multiple groups try. Let's get people more interventionist. Interventionism is the greatest thing that our country could have ever come up with. And we are now first in industrial score. That is one of the benefits of taking over industrial areas where the people are well educated and prosperous. Now at this point we're not even occupying territories. We are just waiting out essentially our people. There are a few hostile sieges that we're going to have to take care of. We'll just bring this army from the Irish area down over to the Ottomans so that we can load up an army and just destroy that British force. That 2,000 man stack might be a bit of an annoyance, so we'll just roll this army over and back. Another election, as is our way. Alright, we can even probably pull this group out entirely. We have our annex Casus Belli against the Swiss. We will just roll on into them. We'll probably need to bring a few additional armies to destroy their force in Bern, as we really don't want to lose that or take too many casualties. And if we just overwhelm them, we shouldn't have to worry about it too much. Egypt is really the next natural target. Let's take a look diplomatically. We can't go after Spain until the turn of the millennia, or century, not millennia. That would be 100 years from now. So we'll go after Egypt, and then probably Spain again to take what's left, and maybe Greece then, followed most likely by finishing off Morocco. Let's go ahead and see what we can get. Place in the sun is pretty quick and straightforward for us to take, and it was immediately detected, so that's swell. Alright though, we can just go through this pretty quickly now. We've defeated the Swiss while I wasn't looking. Ooh, it looks as though they do have an army there. We'll hopefully just destroy that. Now we are taking more losses than they are. In a general sense, occasionally it ticks more in our favor. Yeah, and Egyptian imperialism. We also just discovered Rhetoric of Hate. I just closed that as soon as it popped up, which was probably dumb. I really need to get out of that habit. But whenever things are happening, I kind of get too into it. Oh well, at any rate, we'll try to destroy that last Swiss force. Come on. Go, armies. And there we go. These troops will all just spread out. And when this is all said and done, we will be the proud owners of an entire Switzerland. I really dislike how, because it's a two-province state, it just more or less arbitrarily takes 2 wars to annex. However, it's not that much of an issue, and ultimately, if you are in the point where you're annexing Switzerland, you're not going to be stopped by it taking another war. It looks as though this 2 stack just sort of moved out of the way of our 30 stack. So this is really the height of war fighting at this point. Now, hopefully the British won't have some absurd defender advantage. And thankfully it looks as though they didn't have some sort of absurd defender advantage. The Swiss are annexed, which really just makes that border so much nicer. If we look at terrain, we now control all of the mountains to our north. Admittedly, it does look like the Austrians have some, but I won't begrudge them that. Let's hope that we destroy that 2-stack. And the British Army was more or less nearly destroyed. Will they be able to escape in time? They were. Let's just wheel around, destroy them, and wheel back. The French are still offering peace. Let's not deal with that. Bavaria declared on them? Alright, why not? So we might have to deal with the Bavarians because they might be getting uppity. Or at the very least just being a problem. And I'm not sure where this French army came from. Let's actually take a look. The French only have 3 brigades, which means we did destroy the remainder of their forces. The British still have 155, so that does mean we destroyed 350 approximately. Which is... they probably weren't up to full strength, otherwise that would be over 1 million men. And I don't believe they had anywhere near that against us, however it is possible. Now we destroyed that last French force, and we can just sort of sit this out. Placing the sun against Egypt, that was very quick, but I guess that's what happens when you're going so quickly through everything. We'll declare on the Egyptians, placing the sun. Looks like Egyptian Amhara is going to be the target. We'll just roll these troops in. I didn't actually set up enough men to fully take care of that because I didn't realize that it was going to be such a quick prospect. So those armies are all roving through. This army, I remember, is not actually a real army, just a collection of soldiers, which I guess is what armies are, but not in that case. So we'll just roll these troops over and around to siege out really everything. We're probably going to have to deal with that one Egyptian stack just kind of being a problem, as they'll just go really anywhere for the next few months until we get troops to them. The Greeks will go ahead and justify against to acquire a state. Now I said we were going to focus on the Spanish, however we still are at truce with the Spanish, or in a truce with the Spanish, so we don't really need to worry about them for now. The Egyptians are probably going to make some progress. We'll just essentially march our way to their army and then unsiege whatever they've taken. I imagine our forces will move through quicker than theirs, if for no other reason than because we just have double the armies they do. Election over, new election. Everyone's offering us peace deals. We're not going to take any of them. We're sure getting a lot of events of colonial unrest that results in a large portion of the populace getting pacified, which is not great because we need them to fill our armies, not to rebel against us and be pacified. It's counterproductive to do that. We'll also manually upgrade all of these factories and just click all of that to build all these railroads, although at this point our capitalists should be just doing pretty swimmingly. In fact, we might even take the crazy step of lowering our taxes on the rich to just knock them forward to an absurd degree. Protectionism is the order of the day, and we are moving quickly through Egypt. So that is nice. What else do we need to take care of? Really nothing. That Egyptian army I thought was going to be a problem didn't turn out to be much of a problem whatsoever. We've already marched to the Egyptian capital. Let's see what everybody wants. Everyone's really into interventionism. Our people are a little upset, but not very much. We're just not going to pass a reform until they get to about 4% militancy. Why 4%? It's really arbitrary. However, I do think that it would be... really, we need to make our remaining reforms all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all 8 of them last until about 1936. So if we ration it out well, we may be able to do that. If we just pass every reform as quickly as we're able to, we're not going to make it. We'll make it 4 years. And that would be a terrible problem. And Egypt is civilized, which means we need to actually kind of respect their army fighting ability. So we'll bring 2 forces against them, and it looks to be going fairly well for us when we do that. And yeah, that's basically all of that then. This force will move up and around, that force 2. Full citizenship. Come on, guys, have more interesting questions for your government than, you know, who gets rights in this country of ours. It's actually kind of infuriating how often they're just complaining about people having so much liberty or not enough liberty or whatever it is. Like, everyone's more or less equal, guys. Just calm down. It's not that important. Now, at any rate, we're doing pretty well. Our forces are just moving on throughout. Apparently that 6 or 7 stack managed to escape, or maybe it was just leftovers, carry-ons, holdouts, whatever you want to call them, from that army we fought earlier. At any rate, it doesn't really matter too much. And yeah, we just have such an unbelievably powerful army in the area compared to the Egyptians. And just so many men. That's 90,000, 150,000, solid 210,000 men attacking the Egyptians, which is absurd in so many ways. I think the British presence in actual colonial endeavors was so much lighter on the ground than that. I don't actually have any numbers off the top of my head, but I don't think the British would have ever committed 200,000 men to Egypt, even in the height of World War II. Now, I'll be honest, I'm completely making that number up right now. They very well could have done that, and I just have no idea. I could actually just Google it right now, but then the camera would be more or less left to just float around. However, that would probably be better than to just mislead everybody in some sort of terrible way. A new election. Come on, guys. More elections. Once we're done occupying Egypt, and it's no longer relevant, as sad as that is, once we're done occupying Egypt, and we're not just moving our armies around, then we'll go ahead and I'll take a look at that and see, and come back with that statistic. At any rate, it's, I guess I'm just going to start making up numbers. How many troops do I think the British had in Africa in World War II? If I don't think 200,000 is a reasonable number, then what would have been? I'm going to go ahead and say the probably laughably low number of around 20,000 men in the African campaign. 20,000 men for British Africa in World War II. Now that's probably incredibly low, and admittedly all I did was take a digit out of the original estimate. However, the Egyptians are all sieged out. We'll send a couple armies up north to take back the provinces in Suez that they took from us. And it's January 1st, as the very delayed autosave shows. Now, what should we get? We can get all of these army things. Gas attack is probably the most important. We'll actually just get gas attack, or at least the capability of getting gas attack. We can declare war against the Greeks. We'll go ahead and just do that. Whoops, no, let's not propose peace. Hopefully we can actually destroy that British army at some point. Acquire state, West Macedonia. I thought it was East Macedonia, not sure why. So we'll just march these forces through, hopefully destroy that British group. Do we like free trade? Protectionism, we don't like free trade. So we'll try to discourage our people from supporting that sort of thing. And yeah, just move forward in a general sense. And the British sadly still not destroyed there. Alright. Apparently this doesn't seem right at all. I'm looking at the list of belligerents on Wikipedia for the North African campaign, and it would appear as though the British Commonwealth lost 220,000 men in that campaign. So, admittedly, that is a lot different than the attack on, you know, Egypt to make them into a protectorate, although, to be fair, they kind of just left Egypt as some vague thing that they kind of controlled. But, yeah, that's a... Alright, yeah, that's a lot. That is quite a lot. Yeah, wow. No, never mind, I guess I terribly underestimated that. I don't know why I thought it was such a minor campaign. I guess because I played Hearts of Iron and I realized how horrendous it is to supply. I wonder how long I've been going. 50 minutes, alright. Okay, so I managed to just kind of prove that I have no idea how big World War II was. 220,000 dead, wounded, missing, and captured. Oh, okay, 220,000 wounded, missing, and captured. 3,000 or 35,000 confirmed dead, with 22,000 dead Italians and 18,000 dead Germans. However, they had 470,000 men total. Combined 340,000 Italians and 130,000 Germans. So yeah, that was actually a tremendous deal. That is amazing. I just kind of assumed that it was essentially a series of skirmishes. But no, it was actually a very major thing. So yeah, guess whoops, my bad, guys. Horrifically underestimated that. Back to our war, though. We are doing pretty well. Still not being able to make peace. Are we even fabricating a claim on anybody anymore? We're not. What a horrible oversight. The Spanish, we'll just fabricate a claim against now. So that's convenient. We could go after a justify, or a place in the sun. We'll go after an acquire state. That's more honest to our goal. And we won't have to worry about any useless war goal just hanging on to the side. Besides, we're already at war with really everybody we want to fight. Other than Morocco. We're just waiting for the Jingoism, which will hopefully come at some point. It must. It really must. It's just a matter of when. And there are 2 events that upgrade our Jingoism upgrade, that provide more Jingoism. One that can provide up to 30% Jingoism, and it just upsets all of our pacifists or whatever, and the pacifists will become more militant, as counterintuitive as that may seem. So we could get some militant pacifists. That is something that could realistically show up. That would give us 30% additional Jingoism, which we would then be able to use to basically just get all sorts of territories added as war goals. Oh, we can actually probably piece out the Greeks, as we don't actually need to just sit on them and occupy them till the end of the world. So that's all taken care of. Once again, we'll just sit. Now, these armies we will bring up to bear against the Spanish, as they are going to just sort of spend the next few years flooding into Spain, occupying it, and then just milling around the countryside, as is more or less the tradition of our armies. So, good luck to them. We'll take all these forces and just sort of carry them on over. Yeah, look at that, Jingoism. Alright, what should we add? Let's go ahead and take a look at nothing in particular. Alright, our conquest of North Angola. We have North Angola. We have Algiers. All that we need or want from the French now. We could press forward and take a couple more provinces to make our territories more like Vichy France. Let's not do that, though. We'll go after either South or North Madagascar, depending on which I see first. This one has more. We'll add that. The British, what will we take from you? We'll take Sierra Leone. Place in the sun. Scroll on down. Sierra Leone. Let's take a look. The Ottoman Empire. We're already taking Libya and Palestine. If we take over Transjordan, we'll be able to just move our armies around and about. However, if we take over something like... well, we'd have to take over several states to be able to directly access West Macedonia. So let's see. How much is our war score worth? 35%. Transjordan is tempting. We could go after Montenegro. And we'll do that for now. Egypt, let's add another war goal too. What are we taking from them? Amhara, which they took from the Ethiopians before. I guess we'll start just working our way up from the bottom. So Sudan. Add war goal, acquire a state. Sudan. Wow, that is worth a lot to them. That's terribly annoying. What about Eritrea? That's more reasonable, but still kind of a pain. Well, we'll go after it too. It looks as though the Egyptians are going to be a tough nut to crack. Probably so will the Ottomans. Let's take a look at what our people are all feeling right now. Jingoism still, and now it is below anything that we would need it to be. So that's a pity. We will, however, be able to fight another... well, not really fight. We'll be able to... what am I saying? What are we going to do? Hopefully just get more Jingoism. That's really the gist of it. We're just going to hope for more Jingoism. And by the way, if you're still curious, Wikipedia didn't actually help very much as far as telling how many British and Allied troops were in North Africa. Just that 220,000 were captured, wounded, or killed, with a very small portion of that actually being killed. Or a relatively small portion of that being killed, I should say. So, not maybe the most decisive answer, but still a bit more information than I had originally. We can remove nations from spheres of influence. Yeah, we'll just kick Greece out. There, take that, United Kingdom. We're dismantling your empire, kind of. Yeah. We'll actually do that in a more legitimate sense in a bit. Let's see, we have a new closed factory. Let's open that up, subsidize everything, and then just shift-click to upgrade 22 factories simultaneously. Our capitalists are probably doing very well. Yeah, they're all doing really spectacularly. A new election. Come on, guys, let's get electable here. The North Germans still just doing their thing. Bavaria is now a great power, so we're probably not going to see a unified Germany. At least not until Bavaria gets pushed back a bit. The Russians declared on the Ottomans. What are they going after? Kars. Kars is a region that really loves to fall to the Russians in this game. Hopefully they don't end up taking anything like... well, they might press in and take Trabzon, which would just be kind of hideous, and, well, it'll give us an excuse to fight the Russians again, which is good because we're probably going to be forced to fight the Russians again anyway, excuse or no excuse. Realistically, we are in a spot where we can just kind of treat this like we're at peace, because for all intents and purposes, we are at peace. What is something more peacetime that we would want to do? Well, we can build 10 battleships. That's not really a peacetime activity, but we can do it. Let's do it. China appears to be going to war against Manchuria. They have cores on all of that, so they're probably restoring order, which means the time that all of these Chinese states were independent is going to come to a rather quick close. Now, they're not westernized, though, which means they'll probably be colonial territories to the ascendant China proper. So that means that China is actually going to be a very interesting area with a core region and a large periphery. And only their core region will be able to industrialize. Oh wait, no, because they're accepted culture, so they'll be able to just create states. Well, never mind then. I guess they'll probably just civilize really quickly, or just build factories everywhere incredibly quickly. Alright, we can declare against the Spanish. However, we are at an hour, so what is it that we need? Valencia, we'll go after Valencia right now, declare war. Valencia, and when we get back we will basically just click all of these armies and click them in the general direction of all of Spain's lands and people. And then we'll just hopefully keep getting Jingoist events. We only need one for the Spanish. Let's also, before I forget, we can't justify war. Let's go ahead and justify war on tiny little Montenegro. Why can't we? We have a truce with tiny little Montenegro. I didn't realize we had ever been at war with Montenegro. The Greeks probably called them in. They did. Well, that's a bummer. We could have just occupied them until we were able to make peace. Well, what else do we need? Denmark has a portion. Portugal has some lands. They're apparently a communist country now. How nice for them. We'll go ahead and try to get a place in the sun of theirs, as they don't have any of that as cores, and it does look as though it is all colonial. So we'll go ahead, get a place on the sun, cast a spell against the Portuguese. We'll occupy the Spanish, put our men on the border, take over their mainland. Let's see. We'll take one of these two armies down to there. These two armies will just sort of wrap around this area. And one of these armies will also take and set down there. And just because we're already clicking all of these armies, we'll take this group and put them down here as well. And that means we'll have hopefully enough troops. We'll actually put it there and put this army there so that it's there quicker. And yeah, alright, that's basically it. We'll have to fight Denmark at some point for Danish Ghana. And we're probably going to have to fight the British again, the Egyptians again, the Ottomans again, the Greeks again, the Montenegrins apparently again. So we've got quite a bit of work set out ahead of us. But we'll hopefully be able to take over Spain in the near future. Not take over Spain, but take over these two regions of Spain. And that will solidify our hold over the Western Mediterranean. The Eastern Mediterranean is going to be a bit of a disaster for longer. In fact, we should probably try to get Gibraltar and Malta in this war. However, that will cost us a lot of Jingoism, so it's probably unrealistic. At any rate, I'm going to stop talking now and call it an episode. Thanks very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. We've still got 35 years left, so it might be pretty realistic for that we will take everything. Or not, who knows, it's up in the air.